Hello, this is Mystic Games. Welcome back, guys, to my Cardpocalypse videos. This one will be on the faction, the Meowtants, as you guys can see right here. We've already done the Woofians, we've done the Pipsqueaks. I actually have to do another playthrough to get the Sinisters cards. Unfortunately, the Meowtants, I had to sacrifice one of my legendary cards to unlock other cards for my essentially the walkthrough I was making to see where you get every card from in the game, because the two card options I got were two legendaries on a certain day where you have to sacrifice a legendary to get two legendaries, and I had to do it to see what they were so I could actually put them down. So a little bit of a spoiler, I guess, but I just wanted to let you guys know that I am missing a legendary, and I will try to go over him. Because this was my third playthrough and I had a decent idea of where to get everything from, I actually did end up getting all the champions, unlike my other videos where I had to not show you guys, I had to kind of read what they did. There's not much on the wiki for this game. Like when you guys go to look for all these cards, and you won't be able to see all these cards on the wiki. So that's why I'm doing this video, is essentially to help people like see what their options are for cards. Unfortunately, I can't set the cards back to their standard, what they are, without all the buffs on them, which I wish I could. Anyways, we're going to start with Inferna. Inferna is extremely powerful. This is the legendary for the Meowtants. This is like, you get this right before the final boss, which is annoying to me. But it's super strong. I wish I could use this like the whole game. When you deploy a minion, give that minion charge and 1+ attack. This faction's about hiding and charging and manipulation of your opponent's board. Just so everyone knows. When you deploy a minion, when she goes mega, you deploy a minion, you get a copy of your minion. The minion gains charge and hasty. Pretty much what it does is if you drop a minion, it duplicates it, and then it just can immediately attack that turn. And then it dies at the end of the turn. So you can either use it to trade into an enemy minion to keep your minion that you originally dropped on the board alive, and then to use that one to trade, or you can just use it to go face and kill the enemy boss, which honestly most of the time I never even got hit with this deck. Like I took barely any damage. But you also draw a random minion from your deck when you go mega. Never went mega with her, but mega is super strong. Even her basic is just super strong. Sphinxta is about stunning and ambushing your enemy. So what that means is that Sphinxta can attack into the enemy champion without taking damage, and Sphinxta can attack into a minion to make it so it can't act next turn, which allows you board control. I don't really value stun that high, because most of the time you want to not stun your enemy, you want to just kill them outright. When he transforms, whenever your enemy deploys a minion, you get a copy of that minion with hasty. So pretty much next turn you get a copy of their minion to use against them. On transform, it makes two of the random enemies minions attack each other, which is really, really strong when you're losing. Because generally if you're going mega, not that you are always losing, you guys could be very close, but if you're going mega, the enemy probably does have a decent board state to put you in that thing, and it's probably going to kill their board, or at least get them to be weaker than you are. Fluffles is about stunning. At each of your turns, your first minion gains stun until the end of the turn, so it allows one of your minions to run into a enemy minion, not the champion, because the champion can't be stunned, and it takes them their ability to act next turn away. Again, most of the time you want to kill your enemy, not stun your enemy, so just keep that in mind. When he goes mega, your minions with stun gain 2/2, and on transform, all your minions gain stun. So essentially it buffs gives your board stun, it buffs your whole board, but the issue is, again, stun in my opinion is not that good. Catula is whenever your enemy deploys a minion, you gain 1 attack until the end of your turn. This is very good because say they drop 2 minions on your turn, like he's really good against Swarm, because most of the time Swarm minions, as you saw in the last video, have low health. So he drops 2 Swarm minions. if they want to go into Catula, he's going to already have a +2 to attack, so now he's going to be a 330. We'll say if he's at full health. And they're going to have to run his minion. If they run their minions into him, they just die. So he just lost his whole board. And then next turn, you just have additional attack to hit the enemy champion with, or hit another minion that may have survived. But most likely, most of the minions are dead. During your turn, your champion has +1 attack for each enemy minion. That's his mega ability, and he gains control of a random enemy minion. So if you get hit by a very strong minion, and you go mega, and that's the only minion on the board, you just stole his very strong minion. It's really good against Woofian, because Woofian's all about buffing minions, and they generally don't. It takes them a minute to build up board state, so if you're able to have one of their big minions hit you, and that's the only minion on the board, you're probably going to steal it. And now you just have this giant minion, and then you have a bunch of rush, or I shouldn't say rush, charge minions, and hiding minions to play. Dr. Neuron is the mutations champion. Whenever you have a face-down mutation, your minions just get 1+ attack. That's solid. When you reveal a face-down mutation, you gain 2 attack until the end of your turn. You also deploy a random mutation from your deck. That's his mega. He's okay. He's good in mutations. There's very few. I think there was one challenge I used him for because mutations was just really strong in that challenge. But other than that, I didn't really use him. I used Catula a lot, and I used Meowtant, which we'll go over right now, the diva. After one of your minions attacks, the enemy champion, that minion gains 1 attack. So, I read that badly. So when one of your minions hits the enemy champion, you gain 1 attack permanently on that minion. When he goes mega, he gains ambush, and which means he can attack into the enemy without taking enemy champion without taking damage. And he deals 2 damage to all enemy minions. He's pretty good early game. As the game progresses, I used less of the Meowtant, and I've used more Catula. And then once I got Inferno, which was at the very end, Inferno just is better than these guys. Tiger Eyes, your minions with charge have 1+ health, which is really good early game because your charge minions generally will die almost every time. So this allows them to not die instead. They stay on the board with like an additional health. When he goes mega, they gain a 1/1, which means your charge minions hit harder, and they still have the additional health to survive a turn. And he deploys a 4/1 Meowtant with charge. So that's really strong. It's a 5/2 because he'll be mega whenever you get this. So that is the champions. Let's do mutations. We'll start with Blood Frenzy. This is one of my favorites. When you deal 5 or more damage to an enemy champion in 1 turn, you permanently gain 2 attack. This is so strong, even early in the game, that when you get this card, it should be in your deck. I had 2 of these in my deck. My champion was a 5 dealing champion almost all the time, and I ended up, I think, putting I'll show you guys my deck after because of the rule change I took for this. I think I have 4 of these in my deck, to be honest. Copycat's very strong. When your enemy deploys a minion, it copies it. So this is stronger later in the game. So if you're facing, I guess it doesn't matter what faction you're facing. If you're facing anybody and it's like turn 6, we'll say, you drop this down at the end of your turn. It takes, they get their 6 food or their 7 food, and they drop a really big minion. You just got a free, really big minion for 1 cost, which is just nuts. Telepathy is one of my favorite legendary cards. When an enemy minion attacks, it attacks another enemy minion. So, like, they drop a minion on the board. They already have a minion. That minion goes to kill one of your minions. It will now run into their ally, and they'll kill each other or deal damage to each other, and it takes their turn to attack away as well, which is perfect. Hisser is the another legendary card, because they have a lot of legendaries in their mutations. When a minion attacks your champion, you gain control of the attacking minion after it attacks you. You just straight up steal their minion permanently. Super strong card. Hypnosified is when an enemy minion is deployed, you gain control of that minion until the end of your turn. So essentially what this does is they drop a minion on the board, you steal it, and then you can use it next turn to either run into one of their minions, run into their champion, whatever you want to use. Normally the best way to use it, I would argue, is to run it into one of the other minions to clear both minions, and then he has nothing on the board, and you had a turn to essentially just build a board, and they have nothing now. Icky Pew is when one of your minions attacks the enemy champion, you temporarily gain 2 attack. As I said, I don't value this very high because I can use Blood Frenzy to get +2 attack permanently. But you could put this in a deck where you don't have Blood Frenzy yet because that's a common card, and it would be okay. And we have Octopus here. When an enemy mutation is played face down, you play that mutation. So essentially you just copy a mutation of your enemy. So this is good. It's not... I would argue this isn't as good as Copycat or History, like where you're stealing a minion, because that's obviously going to be... Minions have more value than mutations do. You're copying a 1/1 here, whereas with those cards you might be stealing a 5-cost card for 1. So that's something to think about, but it isn't a bad card. I played this because this is a common card. This was in my deck. 2 copies of this were in my deck for most of the playthrough. Spite Spores is pretty decent, depending on what your build of your deck is. One of your minions attacks the enemy champion. That minion gains +1 attack, and they get Ambush, which means they won't take damage attacking into the champion, and they just now have 1 more attack. And then you have Targeting Sights, which is your stun deck build. When an enemy minion is stunned, destroy that minion and draw a card. So again, as I said, I don't really value stun, because if you read what this card does, it's like, hey, if you stun an enemy, it just explodes and then you get to draw a card. That's good because it destroys the enemy minion. It actually negates, this card in itself negates the stun. It says, what's better than stunning an enemy? Killing an enemy. So in itself, I think stun is redundant, but stun is one of the faction mechanics for this group of cards. So we're going to start with Gloomer. This is your 1-cost card, I believe. I think he's a 2/1. I just buffed mine up through the playthrough to make him no cost and very powerful. I think this was in my deck for a long time. I like the art style. Just so everyone knows, I don't always talk about the art, but there's just a cool art style. It's like a cat that got turned into this dark gloom goo stuff. Hiding makes it so they can't get hit for a turn, and then next turn they attack whatever they want, which hiding's pretty good. I think hiding is a pretty good control type option. Shadowcat is like a 3-cost card normally. I buffed my Shadowcats to 0s. I think I had them down to a 1. I put Ambush on it, I made it a 0. It's nuts. I think this is normally a 3-cost card. The stats on this thing, I didn't even buff the health, but I could have got this to 10. It has charge, ambush, and hiding. So pretty much, I think this is a 3-cost, and I want to say it's a 3. It's either. Is this a 2/4? Is that what this normally is? I can't even remember, guys. I think it's a 2/5. It's a 2/5 2-cost, right? Isn't that what it is? I'm trying to think. I think it's a 2/5. I think it's a 2-cost 2/5. Or it's either a 3 or 2-cost. I can't remember. Either way, just going through your playthrough as a Meowtant, you can get a card this strong just from buffing the ambush, charge, and hiding tags. So, which is what I recommend you would do if you play as Meowtant. That's kind of their whole purpose, unless you want to play a stun deck. Stun/mutation deck. You would probably be playing this deck. And you're going to be going around charge, hiding, and ambush. Pretty much this card can just run into the boss, or yes, the boss, the enemy champion, and take no damage and deal a ton of damage, and it has a ton of health. Blur is a 3/2 normally, 2-cost card, and it is made to charge into the enemy, deal damage. Hopefully you can keep it alive for 1 turn, and then they have to trade something into it to kill it, and it kills their card. That's kind of Blur's purpose. I buffed up my Blurs. My Blurs are very strong now. As you can see, my deck was insanely strong. I think all my cards are like 2-cost cards almost. Like everything is really cheap and everything just hit like a truck. I was able to kill things in like 2 turns. But yeah, so Blur is very strong, once especially later. Elasticat, which you guys can see unbuffed because it's a mutation card. Elasticat is a 1-cost, has 1+ attack for each face-down mutation you control. This is a very strong card because you play a mutation on turn 1, you play a mutation on turn 2, and this card, and it has 3 attack. It's a 3/2 for 1 cost. And you probably have a bunch of control on your board, so very strong card. Scratchers is not that good. So I used this card for a long time because I was running a charge deck, but it's a 2-cost 1/3 normally, and as you can see from all my other cards that I buffed up throughout my playthrough, this card just fell behind because the buffs didn't affect it enough to help it. There's not a lot of charge rule changes, and they probably did that intentionally because charge is very strong in itself. But it was okay early. I would say for the first 2 days that you're building your deck, it's not a bad card to have, but beyond that, it just becomes outdated. But I would say it's a decent card for its cost. It's about equal in stats and everything. Bobcat is a 2/3/1 defender. The Meowtants aren't about defending, and a 3/1 is very bad. So I don't think Bobcat's very good. That's my very short introduction to that. Hello Spitty, which is amazing, by the way. Just want to say that. Hello Spitty. Shoots out like fire, acid from its mouth. And it has a little bow here. I don't know what Hello Spitty is supposed to be a spoof of by any means. If no one can guess, I'm sure no one knows. It's a 2-cost, or it's normally a 3-cost, and it is a... I want to say it's a... Oh my god, is it a 1/3? I think it's a 1/3 normally. And every time you kill an enemy minion, it just sits... You pretty much drop this down, you have it hiding, and it can't get attacked. And you just kill other minions and just keep buffing its attack up, and it ramps up extremely quick, and then you hit the enemy champion with it. And you can usually use it at least twice, or they have to trade one of their big minions into it to counter it. So Hello Spitty is a very good card. You can actually get 3 of these, so just so everybody knows. Citadel is a defender, and it deploys. When you deploy it, all enemy minions lose defender. Due to how the Meowtants play, this is a good card. You might want to run one of these in your deck just to get rid of defender, so all your charge minions can go face. But generally, as I said, my deck got so strong at the end of the run that this was pointless, because I would never have to drop this down to get rid of defender, because they never had a turn to drop a defender. Or if they did drop a defender, I was able to trade into it with usually just my champion, and then all my things went face. So we're going to look at this card. This is like a 5-cost card, by the way, guys. I buffed mine to become a 2-cost with charge, with hiding, so it can't get hit until you attack with it. And it had ambush, so when you hit the enemy champion, it takes no damage. And it was a 8/9 for 2 cost. That should be 4 in stats total. Mine is 8 plus 9, 17 stats in total. So just do the math there. It's a lot stronger than it should be for its cost. Simply put, everything died with this deck. But that's a really good card. Even without charge on it and no stickers, this was a good card. When you start stickering it, it just becomes even better. I would actually say for a common card, this is above average of a card. Adding stickers to it just makes it insane. Anti-Catter is essentially the same idea as the Hello Spitty, but you use mutations to permanently buff its attack. And I would argue, unless you're making a mutation stun deck, Hello Spitty is better. But Anti-Catter is awesome. Like, the art is just amazing. I think it's gorgeous, and I think it's really cool. So, good card if you're using mutations in stun deck. Cool Cat. He's a 2-cost card normally for 1/4, so his stats are really good, and he's a stun card. He's good at controlling the board early on in the game. So I increased the cost of stun cards in my playthrough because the other choices would have nerfed my main style of play. But this is a 2-cost card normally. Very strong if you're doing a stun mutation deck. While is your basic, you deploy this card, all your neutral cards gain 1 attack and gain charge. Very good early on for like the first and maybe the second day. So Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you're probably going to get rid of this card. Because you're going to have enough green cards where you don't need to have this anymore. Slick is an amazing card. I think he's a 4-cost card normally. He has 6/1 in health, I believe. That's correct. And he's charge and ambush, so he's meant to be played. You run into the enemy champion with him, and then they essentially have to deal with him. So they're either going to run a minion into him next turn to kill him, or they're going to ignore him and take more damage. But generally they're going to run a minion into it to get rid of it, and that minion will die in the process. Very powerful card. Again, towards the end of the playthrough, he loses power due to the fact that you can just make way stronger cards, as you saw before. I had like 5 and 3-cost cards for like 0 cost. So, but still, he's probably one of the stronger common cards. And if you're going a charge deck, he's pretty much an inclusion automatically once you get him. Mine was able to get buffed up to a point where he's probably going to survive a couple hits too. Cranny Cat. This is a mutation card. It copies a random enemy face down mutation. If you're running a stun mutation deck, it's good. It's okay. Gato is essentially a mutation deck card as well. It draws a random mutation from your deck. It's a good card for stats. It's missing 1 stat, but what it does is very good for the deck it would be in. Not a bad card. Reflector can be put into any type of deck, although I would argue this is probably going to be a mutation stun deck more so than it would be a charge ambush hiding deck. Like what I made. You would probably want to put this in your, because stun and mutation deck is going to be more of a control deck, and Reflector steals attack from one of your enemy minions and buffs itself with it. So normally this is going to be a control card. I did run one of these very early on in the game because it's a common and I didn't have a full deck yet, and it was very helpful for controlling the enemy. Splitter is a defender. It's a 4-cost, it's a 1/5 normally, and it gives you 2 cards. Again, Meowtants aren't made for defenders, but it does give you card draw, which makes it useful. I never really used it, didn't need it. Glitters is a charge stun minion, so it can be used in either or deck, and it's normally a 4-cost card, and it's a 4/3 normally. It's decent. The issue is charge and stun are meant for 2 different things. Charge is generally meant to either damage the champion, or it's meant to clear an enemy minion, and therefore you probably don't want to stun it, you probably just want to kill it. So I would argue that its abilities are its traits are contradictory to what it's actually trying to do. And I just butchered that word. Oh my god. Glowpard has a mutation card. It has +2 attack for every face down mutation. This is a very good card. As long as you have 1 mutation down, it's worth the 5 cost. Because it's even, it's even in stats. It's 10 stats total. If you have more than that, it's better. The issue is you're going to be triggering your mutations, and then this card will eventually be not as good as it should be. But it's an average card for a mutation deck. Mimic is a control card. This is can be anything kind of card. The issue with this card is it gains no benefit for having any of these key tags because it doesn't have the key tags until you put it on the board. So it doesn't get any buffs from rule changes during the gameplay, which is kind of a negative on it. But it is a decent card. It's just there to kind of be a situational, what do I need? But it's also a situational, they control the board. So you take that as you will. I normally don't like to give my enemy board control. You have Professor here. This one swaps this minion's attack and health with an enemy minion's attack and health. It's a 5 cost. I actually feel like if this was like a 4 health minion, this would be way better. Because you probably don't want to give an enemy minion 6 health, even if you're gaining like... Right, we'll just say you're facing a Woofian, right? And we'll say he has a 10-8 on the board, right? You're going to get a 10-8, and he'll gain a 0-6. So you're still winning in a sense. It's just... It's a lot of health. Like, you're just making a wall to get through it in a sense. And unless... If he has no way to buff, that's fine, because you can just ignore it. And it's just a space on their board. But if you have to, if they're buffing, then it is kind of problematic because you're giving them a high health minion, which if they can get any type of damage on that minion in any other way, that minion will then become a threat that you have to deal with, and it potentially might cost you more units. So, but again, this is supposed to be for the stun, probably mutation kind of control deck anyways. Snowball is a legendary. When you reveal a face-down mutation, draw a random mutation. So, yeah. It's pretty good in a mutation deck. I shouldn't say it's pretty good. It's pretty much the staple of a mutation deck. You would probably want to sticker it down, you know, make it cheaper, get it on the board early, and then support your mutations with it. This is a control card 100%. Pretty much this swaps itself for an enemy minion. So you give them a 1/1 to take whatever they have. The issue of this card, in my opinion, is that the cost is too high. I feel like if this was a 5 cost card, and you could play this earlier, it'd be more beneficial to you, even a 4 cost maybe, but again, you can sticker it down. I just don't think it's worth the cost. Cataclysm is definitely a mutation card. It just gains 4 attack in mutation decks. You play this, every mutation on the board. This can become very strong very quickly. When I was fighting the enemy, they had a +10 on the board at one point, and they like one-shotted me almost with this card. Cthulhu is a control card as well. Gain control of an enemy minion that has 3 less attack. So essentially you're paying for a... In the best case scenario, you drop this on turn 7, and they dropped a 3/3 last turn, and you grab the 3/3 that they have on the board, and you gained stats worth of 8 cost. That's the best case scenario. The other case scenario is they dropped a 2 cost minion, and you steal it, and you're even for your cost of food. And the worst case scenario is they dropped a 1 cost, you grab the 1 cost, and you spent 7 mana for 6 food worth of stats. So Cthulhu is okay. I mean, if the thing is, it feels like if you're already winning, this is probably a decent card. If you're losing, this is probably not good enough without being stickered. Cat O' Nine Heads is a 6 cost, 2/9 stun. This is meant to probably get a defender sticker thrown on it if you're playing a stun deck, and then you just put down a giant wall and everything runs into it and stuns itself, and that gives you another turn where he's just going to not get hit for you to try to kill the enemy champion. The issue is it's a stun minion and it doesn't have defender built into it, and like again, stun isn't like, if this had lethal on it, right, and then I put defender on it, it would be better than having stun. That's just all I gotta say. So, Cat O' Nine Heads is not very good. Anyways, those are the Meowtants cards. I'm gonna have to do a whole nother playthrough to get the Sinister cards so I can show you guys, because I do not have them all. I did miss one legendary here. The legendary that I had, if I remember, it's a 6/6/6, and its effect was when you run into it, it doesn't have charge, by the way. It's just a 6/6, 6 cost of 6, and when it attacks, what it does is it gives all minions on the board charge until the end of the turn, and it gives them +2 attack. I believe that's what it did. And it didn't have charge itself. So you'd want to sticker it to have charge, so that when it attacks into the enemy, all of your other minions gain charge for the turn, and then they gain the 2+2, and then you can run all your minions into the enemy or into the champion and just kill them in a turn. The issue with that card is because it doesn't have charge built in, you would have to add charge to it, and you have to have some sort of board for it to work. And most of the cards in the game for the Meowtants already have charge built in that are very strong, like Slick, Shadowcat, Blur. So you have a lot of cards that you already are going to be using that don't really need that legendary to function, I guess is the best way to put it. So it was a good legendary. I ended up trading it away in this run to get other cards. So yeah, but that was the last legendary. I think every other card I have though, so I don't think you guys missed anything in this run. It's just one card. The art was really cool for the legendary. It had like, it was shooting out like cat. It had like, it looked like a cat with like Mega Man arms, if I remember it properly. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Next time it will be Sinister. And we will do a run through. I'm going to have to do another run through. It'll be a lot quicker this time because I won't be taking notes to do my walkthrough for Steam for everybody. So you guys can play through and build your perfect deck. Because this is a game that I personally, I really like playing through the story mode. I've really enjoyed playing through with all the different deck types. So I'm excited to play through with Sinister. But I know for some people, they want to play through the game once and be done with the game. So for those people, I will be making a walkthrough. I will probably link them to each of my little tutorial videos here on the basics of the game, so that you guys can use that to build whatever faction you want to build in your playthrough if you want to go that route. I'm not really doing spoilers. I'm just doing spoilers in the sense of when you get a reward from whatever quest, these are the reward options ahead of time, so you know what path you can pick. Because certain quests have like 2 paths you can do, and if you pick one path you might get a legendary purple, whereas one path might be a legendary green. And if you're building Meowtants through your playthrough and you want to collect all the Meowtant cards like I did, you're going to want to know which path gives you the green legendary, obviously. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you in the next one. This has been Mystic Games. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you next time. Later.